She said it like a warning and a dare. Don't make excuses. I was still holding her grocery bag over a fence, shocked by how fast a joke could become a fault line. 10 minutes earlier, I tried to be charming. If you were 30, I'd take you with me. Tossed out with a grin to hide that I'd been thinking about her for weeks. She leaned in and whispered those 4 words that split my careful life open. My name is James Carter. I'm 28, new to this cul-de-sac. I moved here after a breakup that rearranged my faith in promises. I wanted quiet, a place where nothing important happened. The first day I saw Eleanor Brooks next door, sun on her hair, hose in her hand. I felt the quiet tilt. She's 50, a widow, the kind of beautiful that makes you rethink numbers. People wave to her and keep their distance. I didn't because my porch light burned out and I needed a ladder. She lent me one, then a wrench, then a recipe for lemon bars. I still haven't returned. We grew into small favors, short talks, long looks. I called it neighborly. My pulse said otherwise. This afternoon started harmless. She was juggling 2 paper bags, a silver sedan winking in her driveway. I passed the first bag, then the second, and my mouth outran my judgment. She didn't flinch. Her smile was a little sad, a little bright. Don't make excuses, she said. And I knew she'd heard everything I had never said. I tried to cover with laughter. Sounded thin. She studied me over her glasses and pushed the gate open. Walk me to the porch. We moved side by side, careful not to touch. Lavender drifted from her yard. My hands stayed in my pockets. On the steps. She said the doorbell had been broken a month and she was pretending not to care. She asked about my work. I told her I'm good at fixing other people's plans and bad at naming my own. She used to teach art and keeps a drawer of brushes in case life needs color. A shadow crossed the sidewalk. Margaret Klein from 2 doors down paused and stared. She smiled, but it had teeth. Eleanor's shoulders rose and fell. The fence between worlds climbed back up. I should get these inside, she said. I can carry them to the kitchen. That would be trouble. I thought we weren't making excuses. She looked at me like a secret she wasn't sure I could hold, then nudged a bag to my chest. Inside, the house smelled like vanilla and rain. A record player hummed. Old jazz her husband loved. I set the bag on the counter and waited for the weight of his ghost. It didn't arrive. Only her leaning against the sink. I'm not fragile, she said. People like deciding that for me. I said, I just don't want to be the reason you have to explain yourself. Then be the reason I don't have to. She answered half smile, half challenge. I didn't kiss her. I didn't reach for her hand. I memorized the light on her cheek and the tiny scar by her lip and promised I'd fix the doorbell tomorrow. She walked me out with a thank you that sounded too formal, and I'd made it halfway down the path before she called after me. James. I turned. If you were 30, she said, quoting me with a glint, you'd take me with you. I'm 50. Will you still walk beside me? My answer jammed between fear and yes. I nodded because words felt reckless. She laughed, soft, real, and the sound followed me home. In my kitchen, I stood with the empty dish and the trace of her perfume, realizing quiet isn't what I moved here for. I moved here to run out of excuses. The next morning, I fixed her doorbell like I promised. It wasn't broken, just disconnected. The wire hung there, dusty and cleanly cut, like someone had decided silence was safer. I reattached it, pressed the button, and heard the soft chime echo inside her house. When she opened the door, she looked surprised to see me holding a screwdriver instead of an excuse. You really came back, she said. I said I would. Most men say a lot of things. I smiled. Maybe I'm not most men. She tilted her head, the faintest grin tugging at her lips. We'll see. That day began a quiet routine I didn't plan for. Every morning, I'd see her watering the flowers in her yard. Lavender, roses, and something bright orange, she said, reminded her of sunsets. We talk across the fence, share coffee now and then, and laugh about the neighborhood gossip. She told me she liked my company because I didn't fill silence with noise. I told her I liked hers because it made silence feel full. But then, of course, the world noticed. Started small. Margaret Klein slowing her car whenever she passed our houses, pretending to check her phone. Then one of my coworkers, Sarah Mills, who also lived nearby, asked over lunch, "So, you're close with your neighbor, huh? The pretty one with the silver car." The tone wasn't cruel, but it carried that invisible smirk people get when they think they've discovered a secret. That night, I saw Eleanor sitting on her porch, a blanket around her shoulders. I joined her without asking. "They're talking, aren't they?" she asked quietly. I nodded a little. I should have known. People always talk when they see something that doesn't fit their picture of the world. I wanted to say something comforting, something strong, but all I managed was, "They don't know you." "They don't need to," she said, looking toward the dark street. "They just need to decide who I am." We sat in silence for a while. The air smelled like rain, and the street lights buzzed softly. She sighed, pulled the blanket tighter. I used to love attention. When I was younger, I'd walk into a room and feel eyes on me, and I thought it meant something. Now, the older I get, the more I realize it's just noise. "You still get attention," I said. She gave me a look I couldn't read. "That's not the kind I meant." Her eyes lingered on mine for a second too long. Then she looked away. "You should go before people start writing stories." "Too late," I said. "They already have." She smiled faintly. "And what story are you writing?" "The kind that doesn't end in a rumor," I said. Her laugh was soft, tired, and real. "Then you're already braver than most." For a week, we kept our distance. I told myself it was better that way, but the space between our houses felt heavier than before. I'd catch glimpses of her behind the curtains or hear her car door closing at night. It was ridiculous how much one person could fill the air just by existing nearby. One Friday evening, I was washing my car when she appeared on her porch again. "You missed a spot," she said. "Where?" She pointed, grinning. "On the hood. You can't leave streaks like that. You'll ruin your reputation." "Reputation's already ruined," I said, tossing her a towel. "Might as well make it official." She walked over barefoot, the hem of her jeans brushing the pavement. The golden sunset caught her hair, turning it to light. She wiped the hood gently, then leaned against the car, looking at me. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked. "Because every time I leave, I wonder what you'll say next." Her lips curved in that half-smile again. "You're too young to be saying things like that. Maybe. Or maybe age just teaches you to stop pretending." She looked down, running her fingers along the metal. "You make everything sound simple." "It is simple," I said. "People just make it complicated." She stood up straight, meeting my eyes. "And what if I'm the one making it complicated? Then I'll stay until it's not." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was electric. The kind that hums between two people who've already crossed a line neither of them can see. Finally, she whispered, "You should really stop saying things like that." "Why?" "Because one day I might believe you." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The wind moved her hair, and for a heartbeat, I thought she'd step closer, but she didn't. She just smiled, handed me the towel and said, "Good night, James." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the soft sound of her wind chimes through the open window, wondering when exactly a joke had turned into something I couldn't laugh off anymore. The rumors didn't stop. They just learned to whisper. By the third week, people in the neighborhood had begun treating me like I was the headline of a story no one wanted to tell out loud. It's strange how kindness turns thin once curiosity moves in. I pretended not to care, but Eleanor did. She started keeping her porch light off, her car in the garage, her laughter quieter. One night, I caught her watering her plants long after midnight. The street was empty, the air warm and still. I walked over, leaning on the fence. "You always pick the strangest time to garden," I said. She looked up, startled, then relaxed. "It's the only time people don't stare. You care too much about what they think." "And you don't care enough," she said softly. "That's why you'll survive this. And I won't." "Survive what?" She didn't answer, just kept watering the flowers that didn't need it. The light from her porch flickered across her face. I saw something there I hadn't noticed before. Quiet fear. The kind people hide behind calm smiles. A few days later, things got worse. I was at work when my coworker Sarah Mills came by my desk, smirking. I saw your neighbor at the store. She looks great for her age. I tried to ignore the tone. What are you getting at? Nothing, she said, still smiling. Just be careful. People talk. You wouldn't want your career tied to some scandal. That word stuck with me all day. Scandal. As if caring about someone who made me feel alive was a crime. When I got home, I found a small paper bag on my porch. Inside was a lemon bar and a note for when you stop pretending you don't care. No name, but I knew the handwriting. I walked over to her house. She opened the door before I even knocked. You got my message? Yeah, I said, and I'm done pretending. Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed steady. You shouldn't say things like that because someone might believe me. No, she whispered. Because I already do. For a moment, neither of us moved. The sound of cicadas filled the air, the kind of quiet noise that makes every word feel heavier. Then she stepped aside. Come in. Her house felt different at night, warmer, alive. The record player spun something slow, something that made time stretch. She poured us tea, and we sat across from each other at the kitchen table like two people who both knew the rules and didn't care to follow them anymore. I used to think I was done with love, she said. It's easier when you stop expecting it. But then you moved in next door, fixing everything that wasn't even broken. I didn't mean to. I know, she said with a small smile. That's what makes it dangerous. Outside, thunder rumbled far away. She looked toward the window, then back at me. They'll never understand this, James. I don't need them to, I said. I just need you to. She laughed quietly, almost sadly. You talk like you've never been afraid of losing something. I have, I said. That's why I'm not running this time. The rain started soft at first, then steady. She stood up, went to close the window, and paused with her hand on the frame. You should go before it gets worse, she said. I'm already in it, I replied. She turned around, hair falling over her shoulder, eyes bright and uncertain. Why do you keep doing this? Because every time I try to walk away, I end up here again. She took a step toward me, then another, until she was close enough that I could see the tiny freckles along her collarbone. Her voice dropped to a whisper. If I ask you to stay, you'll think it means something. It already does. Lightning flashed outside, lighting the room in gold for a heartbeat. She exhaled, her hand brushing mine. Accidental or not, I couldn't tell. The moment stretched, fragile and dangerous. Then she said it again the same way she had that first day. Don't make excuses. I didn't. She rested her head lightly on my shoulder just for a second, then stepped back. Good night, James. I walked home in the rain, soaked but smiling. Every drop on my skin felt like a promise I hadn't made yet, but already meant. That night, I realized something simple and terrifying. Love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it slips in quietly, like a neighbor borrowing sugar, and before you know it, it's the only thing that feels real. The storm that night didn't stop at the rain. It lingered in the air the next morning, thick, heavy, like the sky still hadn't decided whether to forgive us. I didn't see Eleanor for 2 days after that. Her house stayed dark, curtains drawn, her silver car gone. I tried to tell myself she was fine, that maybe she needed space. But every time I walked past her gate, it felt like the whole world had gone quiet in her absence. On the third night, I heard a knock. Soft, hesitant. When I opened the door, she stood there, rain dripping from her hair again, just like the first time she came to me. Only now her expression wasn't calm. It was exhausted, almost scared. Can I come in? She asked. I nodded, stepping aside. She walked in, crossing her arms like she was trying to hold herself together. They know, she said finally. Who? The neighborhood. Maybe even your boss. Someone saw me leave your house that night during the storm, and apparently that's enough for them to decide everything about us. I didn't know what to say. The air felt cold even though the heater was on. I thought I was used to this, she continued, voice shaking, being judged, being misunderstood. But this time it's different because this time it hurts. I wanted to tell her it didn't matter, that I didn't care, But she looked at me and I knew she needed truth, not comfort. They'll move on, I said quietly. They always do, she shook her head. No, James. They'll move on when there's someone else to talk about. Until then, we're the story. I stepped closer. Then let them talk. Don't, she said, taking a step back. You're still young. You don't understand what this does to a woman like me. I'm supposed to be mature, sensible, above this kind of thing. Falling for someone your age. It makes me look foolish. Falling? I repeated, my heart catching on the word. She froze. Then she smiled faintly bitterly. I said too much. No, I said. You said just enough. We stood there, the sound of rain pressing against the windows again. I could feel the space between us shrinking, then stretching like the world itself couldn't decide which side we belonged to. Eleanor, I said softly, I didn't start this to prove something. I didn't even mean for it to happen. But now that it has, I'm not walking away just because people don't like the math. She looked up, eyes glistening, her voice trembling. You make it sound easy. It's not, I admitted. But that's what makes it worth it. She let out a breath that sounded like surrender. You always say the right thing. Only because I mean it. She laughed quietly, shaking her head. You shouldn't. It'll only make this harder. Then something shifted. Small but undeniable. She stepped closer. The scent of rain on her hair, the warmth of her skin, the way her eyes softened. It all drew me in. This isn't a fairy tale. She whispered. I know, and there's no happy ending. Maybe not, but there's a real one. Her hand found mine. The touch was light, uncertain, but it burned like truth. For a moment, we didn't say a word. Then she whispered, if you stay, you'll lose something. Maybe your reputation, maybe your peace, maybe me. Then I'll lose it all, I said. She smiled through her tears. You sound like you've never been hurt before. I said. That's why I know this isn't something you get twice. She leaned her forehead against mine, eyes closed. I'm terrified, James. So am I said. But fear doesn't mean we're wrong. Lightning flashed outside, lighting her face in a soft, fragile glow. Her lips trembled, not from the cold, but from everything she wanted to say and didn't. Then she whispered, tell me this isn't just another storm. It's not, I said. It's us finally standing in the rain instead of hiding from it. She laughed softly, half a sob, half a release. Her arms wrapped around me, careful at first, then tighter, like she was holding on to something she'd spent years pretending she didn't need. We didn't kiss. We didn't have to. The way she clung to me said everything. Fear, hope, surrender, and something that felt dangerously close to forever. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were calm again. You should go to sleep, she said, smiling faintly. Tomorrow we'll both have to face what comes next. What comes next? I asked. She looked toward the window where the rain had stopped and the first hint of dawn was breaking. The morning after a storm, she said. That's when people really see what survived. As she left, her reflection flickered in the glass. Tired, beautiful, alive, I stood there long after the door closed, realizing that no matter what the world decided, something in me had already changed, and I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. The strange how silence can feel heavier than words. After that night, Eleanor and I didn't talk for a week. Not because we wanted distance, but because reality had finally caught up to us. The neighborhood knew. My coworkers whispered, and even the mailman looked at me differently. Every small interaction felt like it came with a question I didn't want to answer. Then one Saturday morning, I saw her car missing again. Hours later, she came back. Her face was pale, her eyes tired. I walked over before I could stop myself. Where have you been? I asked. She hesitated. Talking to someone I should have let go of a long time ago. Her ex-husband, Henry Tate. I'd heard about him. The charming man who left when life stopped being easy. What did he want? She looked down. To make things right, apparently to fix what's broken. And what did you tell him? That some things aren't broken. They just belong to the past. For a moment I said nothing. Then I asked quietly, and what about us? She looked up, meeting my eyes. That's the problem, James. I don't know what we are in a world that wants us to apologize for feeling something. I took a step closer. Then let's stop apologizing. She smiled, but it was sad. You think life's that simple? No, I said. But I think love is. That night, she invited me over. No tea, no excuses, just the two of us. The soft hum of her old record player filling the silence. We sat on her couch inches apart, pretending not to notice how close our hands were. I used to love storms, she said suddenly. They made me feel small but alive. Lately, all I feel is small. Then let me remind you what alive feels like, I said. She turned to me, eyes glistening. You always say things like that, and you mean them. That's what scares me. I smiled faintly. Then I guess we're both scared. She reached out, her fingers tracing the edge of my sleeve. Do you know what people are saying about us? Let them, I said. They've been wrong before. Her laugh was quiet, almost a whisper. You're too young to understand how unforgiving people can be. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just old enough not to care anymore. For the first time, she didn't argue. She leaned in, rested her hand against my cheek, and kissed me soft, slow and certain. It wasn't the kind of kiss that promises forever. It was the kind that says, right now is enough. When we pulled away, she whispered, you should go before I start believing this can last. Why can't it? Because life doesn't work that way, she said. Because someday you'll wake up and want something simpler, easier, someone closer to your world, and I'll have to watch you walk away. I shook my head. If I ever walk away, it won't be because you're older. It'll be because you stopped believing I could love you. Her eyes shimmered with something between pain and hope. You shouldn't make promises you can't keep. I just did, I said. She smiled then. Not the polite, practiced one I'd seen before, but the real one. You make me feel like time doesn't exist, she whispered. Maybe that's what love is, I said. A place where time finally gives up. The days that followed weren't easy. Some neighbors stopped saying hello. Sarah Mills from work hinted that my personal life might affect my promotion, but I didn't care. Every evening, Eleanor would wave from her porch, and that was enough. One evening, as the sun dipped low, she called out across the fence. Remember what you said when we first met? I laughed about taking you with me if you were 30. She nodded, smiling. Well, I'm still not 30, and you're still here. I guess excuses never worked on you, I said. She laughed, her eyes soft. You learned fast. Then quieter, she added. You know, for years I thought I was too old to fall in love again. That part of me had expired. You proved me wrong. And you proved I can still surprise myself, I said. The light faded, painting her in gold. She looked at me the way she did that first day. Warm, fearless, a little amused. Don't ever let the world tell you what love should look like, James. She said, let it look like this. I smiled. What's this? She leaned on the fence, her voice soft. Two people who stopped making excuses. The crickets sang. The air smelled like summer. And for the first time, the silence between us wasn't heavy. It was home. Love didn't need permission. It just needed two people brave enough to stand where they weren't supposed to and call it.